Welcome to our deep dive, and this one's going to be fascinating, I think. We're going to be taking a look at Master Mitrasen Thapa. And, you sent us over a really interesting collection of sources about his life snippets, celebrating his 130th birthday, little glimpses into his work, even some stuff about his wider impact.
Sure.
So I'm really excited to unpack it all.
Yeah, it sounds like he was quite the figure, far more than just a singer from what you said. I'm eager to jump in and see what we can discover.
Okay, so right off the bat, we've got these really captivating lines like, in the market of Butwal, dried meat by the Darney. And then in the market of Butwal, is there Laha or Sahila? We also have Tansen Bazaar. How can we describe Tansen? Tell us. And in the middle of the bazaar, an 8-cornered door. It's so evocative, right? It's almost like a song.
Well, it's funny you should pick up on that because they probably are excerpts from folk songs or poems that Master Mitrasen was known for. They really give us a taste of this vibrant oral tradition and hint at some of the popular themes that he explored in his work.
Oh, wow, yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. And speaking of Tansen, there's a mention of Shitalpati alongside it. Can you shed some light on what that refers to? I have to admit it's a new one for me.
Shitalpatu refers to these finely woven mats made from a specific type of reed, and they're actually quite popular in the Tansen region. They're known for their coolness, which makes them perfect for those warmer months.
Ah, so the mention of Shitalpati alongside Tansen, it evokes a sense of place, almost a longing for home, perhaps.
Exactly. That strong connection to place seems to be a recurring theme in Mitrasen's work. We see it again in those lines about the lively marketplace in Butwal.
Yeah, it really does paint such a vivid picture. Like you can almost smell the dried meat and hear all the marketplace chatter. And the 8-cornered door of Tansen, it's like he's giving us this little tour through his world.
Yeah, and that attention to detail, that ability to transport listeners to a very specific time and place, that might be one of the reasons his work still resonates so strongly today.
It's pretty incredible to think that we're talking about someone who was born over 130 years ago. And speaking of celebrating his legacy, we have information about an event marking his 130th birthday. It was organized by Nepal Pragya Pradestan and the Master Mitrasen Smriti Pradestan. Can you tell us a little bit more about those organizations and their connection to Master Mitrasen?
Sure. So Nepal Pragya Pradestan is a really prestigious organization, and they're dedicated to preserving and promoting Nepali language, literature, and culture. The Master Mitrasen Smriti Pradestan, well, as the name suggests, it's specifically focused on honoring and continuing Master Mitrasen Thapa's legacy. So their involvement in his birthday celebrations really speaks volumes about his enduring impact and his influence within Nepali society.
It's amazing to see how his work is still being celebrated and studied today. Now,
Okay.
something that I noticed while I was going through these materials was the way Master Mitrasen is described. Sometimes he's called a simple singer, and other times he's referred to as a pragya, which means a scholar. Why do you think there's this distinction?
That's a great observation. And it might reflect how the perception of musicians and artists has evolved over time. During Mitrasen's life, musicians, especially those in folk traditions, might have been seen primarily as entertainers. But when you dig a little deeper into his work, you start to see evidence of social commentary, philosophical exploration, a real understanding of human nature. And those are all elements that definitely justify the title of pragya.
But wouldn't labeling him as a pragya also reinforce the idea that musicians are only worthy of that scholarly recognition if they're engaging in more intellectual pursuits beyond their art? Does that create a sort of hierarchy within artistic expression?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. It raises questions about how we value different forms of art and the potential biases that we might be unknowingly perpetuating.
And just to highlight how widely recognized he is, his image actually appears on postage stamps in both Nepal and India. Not only that there are statues of him in 8 locations in India and 2 in Nepal. That's amazing. What do you think contributed to his popularity across borders?
Wow, yeah, that level of recognition really points to a figure who transcended geographical and cultural boundaries. It seems his music resonated with a really wide audience, probably because of the universal themes, the emotional depth, the way he connected with the experiences of everyday people.
Yeah, for sure. So let's delve into some of the details of his life. We know he had a military background, served as a soldier, but he eventually transitioned to a life dedicated to social reform and artistic expression. What do you think could have prompted such a dramatic shift?
It is a really intriguing transition going from soldier to social reformer. It suggests some kind of deep internal change, perhaps sparked by his experiences in the military, or maybe a growing awareness of the social issues that were affecting his community.
And it's really fascinating that he chose to write in Nepali specifically to make spiritual teachings accessible to ordinary people. He could have chosen a more scholarly language, but he chose to communicate directly with his community.
Right, that really speaks volumes about his commitment to social upliftment and to empowering people through knowledge. It also suggests a conscious effort to bridge the gap between intellectual elites and the everyday person, making sure spiritual wisdom was accessible to everyone.
And this is where things get even more interesting. It's mentioned that his work actually played a role in encouraging Gorkha soldiers to enlist in the Indian National Army during World War II. How do you think his music might have achieved that?
To understand that we need to think about the historical context, World War II was a time of massive global upheaval, and the Gurkha regiments, known for their bravery and loyalty, were very much involved in the conflict. Mitrasen's music, which was probably filled with themes of patriotism, sacrifice the warrior spirit, it must have resonated deeply with those soldiers, reinforcing their sense of duty and maybe even inspiring them to enlist.
So it wasn't just about keeping the troops entertained. His music potentially had a direct impact on their decisions and actions during a pivotal moment in history.
Exactly. It's a powerful example of how art can intersect with social and political movements, shaping individual choices and even influencing the course of events.
And to give our listeners a taste of his work, we have a few of his song titles here. The paddy stalk sways, my dear, the whole country is delightful. Lahore's Riley and I fashion is good. Now let's go Conchi home, the path is uphill ours. And say it, Gurkha Brothers, Jai Gurkha.
Wow, just those titles alone offer a glimpse into the wide range of themes that Mitrasen explored. Love nature, the pride of the Gorkha identity, the challenges of migration, maybe even some subtle critiques of social norms.
Lahore's Riley, my fashion is good. What do you make of that one? It sounds almost like a commentary on social trends or cultural identity.
Lahore usually refers to a soldier from the Gurkha regiments, and Railamai is most likely a reference to their traditional dance form. So the title could be celebrating that unique cultural expression, but it could also be interpreted as a subtle dig at how their fashion is perceived by outsiders.
It's amazing how much we can unpack from just a few words. And these songs are just a small part of a much larger body of work.
Absolutely. It's like we're piecing together a giant puzzle, and with every song title, every lyric, we uncover another facet of Master Mitrasen's artistic vision and his social commentary.
It really does feel like we're just scratching the surface here. Out of all the song titles we've talked about, which one stands out to you the most?
I'd have to say, now let's go Conchi home. The path is uphill ours. There's this real sense of determination in those words, like they're acknowledging the challenges ahead, but also this resolute spirit in facing them head on.
Yeah, you're so right. It's not just about going home. It's about that journey itself and the struggle that unites them.
Makes me think about the experiences of those Gorkha soldiers who had to leave their families and communities behind to serve in faraway lands. That line, the path is uphill ours, it could be a metaphor for the sacrifices they made, all the hardships they had to endure.
Like, he's really capturing the essence of that collective experience, acknowledging the difficulties, but also highlighting their incredible resilience and strength in the face of all that adversity.
And the fact that he chose to write in Nepali, a language that both the soldiers and their families back home could understand it, really amplifies that sense of shared experience. He wasn't writing for some elite audience, he was speaking directly to the hearts of the people who lived these realities.
It's amazing how just a single line can evoke so much emotion and historical context. And then there's, say, Gurkha Brothers, Jai Gurkha. It's like a rallying cry, a bold statement of pride and unity.
That one definitely has a powerful impact. It speaks to the importance of camaraderie, that sense of shared identity, especially for those who might be feeling isolated or far from home.
Makes me think about how his music might have contributed to that feeling of belonging, that esprit de corps within the Gurkha regiments. Like he was providing the soundtrack to their shared experiences, their struggles, their victories.
Yeah, and especially during World War II, when those soldiers were fighting on foreign soil far away from their loved ones, that sense of unity and purpose would have been so incredibly important.
His music could have been a source of comfort, a source of inspiration, even a source of strength in the face of unimaginable challenges. It's a reminder of the power of art to go beyond physical boundaries and connect people on a deeper emotional level.
Absolutely. And it highlights how music can shape collective identity. How it can foster a sense of belonging and shared purpose. It's not just about entertainment, it's about creating a shared narrative, a common ground that binds people together.
Earlier, we were talking about those really vivid descriptions of the marketplace in Butwal and the eight-corner door in Tansen. I'm really struck by how those seemingly simple details reveal a lot about Master Mitrasen's approach to songwriting.
I see what you mean. He wasn't just writing abstract poetry. He was grounding his work in the real, everyday experiences of his community. Those very specific details, the dried meat, the bustling marketplace, the iconic architecture, it all creates this sense of familiarity and authenticity that listeners can really connect with.
It's like he's inviting us right into his world, letting us experience those places through his words.
Yeah.
And that's probably why his music feels so timeless. It's rooted in that shared human experience and those sights and sounds and emotions that transcend any specific time period.
Exactly. He's taking those everyday details and weaving them into his songs. He's showing us the beauty and the significance in the ordinary, encouraging us to look at the world around us with fresh eyes.
Do you think his background as a soldier had any influence on his ability to observe and capture those everyday moments?
That's an interesting thought. Military life often demands a lot of observation and attention to detail, so maybe those skills did carry over into his songwriting, allowing him to notice and really appreciate those small nuances of daily life that others might miss.
And maybe his military experience also contributed to those recurring themes of discipline, resilience, and sacrifice that we see throughout his work.
It's fascinating to think about how all those different aspects of his life, his time in the military, his social activism, his deep connection to his community, how it all came together to shape his artistic vision.
Well, we know there are 8 books and various research works dedicated to Master Mitrasen. I'm even more curious now to delve into those and see the full scope of his work and his legacy.
I bet those works provide even more insight into the social, cultural, and historical context surrounding his music. It feels like we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg with this deep dive.
It really makes you realize how much there is to learn and how much we can discover when we take the time to really explore someone's life and their work.
Like we're on this incredible archaeological dig, uncovering layers of meaning and significance with each new piece of information.
And the best part is, the more we discover, the more questions we have. It's a never-ending journey of discovery.
That's the sign of a truly captivating subject. Something that keeps sparking your curiosity and inspiring you to dig deeper.
Master Mitrasen Thapa certainly fits the bill. It's amazing, isn't it, how those themes still resonate today? Especially that whole "the path is uphill ours" from "Now Let's Go Conchi Home." It speaks to this universal human experience.
Yeah, definitely. That feeling of facing challenges head on, persevering even when things are tough. It's something that transcends cultures and time periods. And honestly, in today's world, with all the conflict and uncertainty and division, that message of resilience is really powerful.
It's like he's saying, hey, you're not alone in your struggles. And even when the going gets tough, we have the strength to keep moving forward, especially when we support each other.
I think that's a key takeaway from Master Mitrasen's legacy. The power of community shared experience, using your voice to lift others up. He wasn't just singing about his own personal struggles. He was tapping into something much bigger, something that connected him to his listeners on a deeper level.
Yeah, that connection, that sense of shared humanity, that's what makes his music so enduring. It's not just about entertainment. It's about offering comfort and sparking reflection and reminding us of the values we all share.
And it's especially relevant now, in an age where technology can often isolate us, create these digital echo chambers that just reinforce what we already believe. Master Mitrasen's music pushes us to step outside of those echo chambers, to connect with different perspectives and find that common ground through shared experiences.
Absolutely. It's easy to get stuck in our own little bubbles.
Yeah.
But his work reminds us that there's a whole world out there, full of different stories and perspectives and experiences.
And by engaging with those stories, by listening to voices that are different from our own, we can really broaden our understanding of the world and foster a sense of empathy and connection that goes beyond our differences.
We touched on his commitment to social reform earlier. He wasn't afraid to use his music to talk about things like excessive spending and alcohol consumption, which were affecting his community.
That really shows his courage and his willingness to use his platform to advocate for positive change. He wasn't just sitting back and watching. He was actively involved in trying to improve the social fabric of his community.
And his message is still so relevant today. As we deal with things like addiction and consumerism and the erosion of social values, it reminds us that art can be this powerful tool for raising awareness, challenging the norm, inspiring action.
Exactly. It's not about lecturing or preaching. It's about engaging in dialogue and inviting people to reflect and think critically about the world around them. Master Mitrasen did that through his music. And I think we can all strive for that in our own way, whether it's through art or activism or even just the conversations we have with our loved ones.
It's about realizing that we all have a part to play in building a better future, and that even small actions can create a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Master Mitrasen's story shows us the power of individual initiative, the impact one person can have when they use their talents and their voice to advocate for positive change.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from Master Mitrasen Tapa's story?
I hope it inspires them to look deeper, to explore the hidden depths of their own cultures and uncover the stories that have shaped their world, and maybe even find their own voice, their own way to contribute to something bigger than themselves.
Beautifully said. Master Mitrasen Tapa's legacy reminds us that music is so much more than just entertainment. It's a powerful tool for storytelling, for social commentary, for connecting with the human experience. And it's a reminder that we all have a story to tell, and that those stories have the power to inspire, to challenge, and to bring us together.
So keep exploring, keep listening, and keep sharing your own stories. You never know who you might inspire.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life and legacy of Master Mitrasen Tapa. Until next time, keep exploring.